Cathy, thank you for being here.
All right, here we go.
There we go. All right, for a moment, you get to breathe. You made it through Black Friday,
Yes.
Black Friday week.
Cyber Monday, Cyber Tuesday, all the Cyber days. We're still in the Cyber week, technically. But yeah,
You made it. Here you are. Thank you for being with us.
of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm going to start just a moment about you before we get into sets and some of the work you have going. But so you went from Wall Street to Fifth. Tell us about what drove that change. That's a pretty big going from financial to the clothing, the beauty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I started my career out in investment banking, so very, very different industry, doing very different things. And I loved it. A lot of what I spent my time on there, though, were these big transformative moments in the life cycle of a company, right? When you're thinking about acquiring another company, when you're thinking about spinning off a part of the business and rethinking your business model. So very exciting moments, very fun to work on. But the question I started asking was, what kind of happens in between those big moments? And the vast majority of the time, when you're really trying to build a business, build a company, and really figure out how to sustain growth. And so because I was curious in that, I started to look for opportunities to work in more corporate strategy type of teams and roles. Given my background, that felt like an easy way to segue into the more corporate side and the brand side of things. And when I worked in banking, the industries that I really focused on were media and CPG, which you could, consider retail adjacent. So really gravitated toward industries that were much more, had brands or companies, I should say, that had brands that were consumer facing that I could also understand as a consumer. And then retail is obviously such a big part of all of our lives and in many, many different ways. So kind of felt like I just gravitated toward that.
And not just retail, but Hudson Bay Co. is the oldest, for those who don't know, parent, is the oldest in North America. You need to correct me on this. Is it like 120 years?
Don't tell me, I actually don't know, but it's many, many.
We'll go with 120.
It's the oldest.
It sounds good. But yeah, it's the oldest in North America. So you went to a very mature, established organization going into that. It wasn't more of like a startup in retail that you could bring your background, your financial background, and kind of look at, all right, how do I grow? Where do I move? You went to a really established. Was there purpose behind it?
I don't have a great answer for that. Honestly, my answer in short is it was fun. It's a fun industry. I'm actually from Indianapolis, Indiana. We have a Saks Fifth Avenue store there, and I just remember growing up, walking through the store and seeing all these beautiful products, these beautiful brands, and Saks to me always, stood for the highest level of fashion. And so when I moved to New York, the home of, our amazing Saks Fifth Avenue flagship, it just was the most exciting thing to kind of work for a company like Hudson's Bay Company that owned such an iconic brand as Saks. And working in marketing there, what I've learned over the years is like building an iconic brand and evolving an iconic brand has a lot of nuances that are, parts of it very fun, parts of it you're building on so much that's already been laid out there in the groundwork from years past, but there's also nuances in how do you evolve for today, for the future, without losing your heritage. So that's been a very fun kind of project to work on and figuring out how to thread that needle.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we just heard Gene and Mike talk about brand performance, and it's been talked about a lot today, right? Kind of the collapsing of the funnel and whatnot. The beginning of it really begins with first-party data, and a company with the legacy that you guys have, and the consumer set, and the loyalty that you have. How do you aggregate in a safe way, consented way, and all of that? But are you really rooted in first-party data first? And kind of talk to us about how you've been implementing that.
Yeah, so we, as a multi-brand retailer, we do have the benefit of having really rich data sets when it comes to our customers. So we have a lot of governance in place, obviously, to make sure that we're using it safely in a way that is compliant and beneficial for our customers. I think that's really front and center of it. We should be benefiting our customers in the way that we're using it. So for my team on growth marketing, we are using first-party data for targeting everywhere we possibly can, whether that is direct first-party targeting or lookalike modeling that helps us enrich our targeting capabilities. That's a conversation that we have with all of the partners that we work with, and, understanding what can you do today, what are you building to be able to do tomorrow to help us continue to very richly leverage the data that we have at our fingertips. And to your point on, knowing the consumer, I think that is something that we're all constantly analyzing our data and doing ongoing research with our customer base to understand, to really inform, I think, as many decisions as we're making across the business, from what brands and products should we be selling to what's the next feature that we should be rolling out on our site and app. So it's definitely very, very core to how we think about our business, and we do have the benefit of having that rich data set in order to help us inform.
And thinking about it from and this is my CPG hat coming in a little bit, but thinking about, Saks has a wealth of first-party data. A lot of your brand partners probably come to the party with a lot of their own, sorry, redundant, but with the first-party data. Do you guys play together nicely in that? Are you doing data clean room types of activity and things like that? Or is it really, we're focused on our core loyal consumer and our first-party data, and we'll bring insights and help the partnerships along, or is it really symbiotic?
So we actually, a lot of our partners come to us in order to leverage our data. When you think about, a lot of the brands that we sell, building out D2C capabilities for them are relatively new for some of the brands, and they're really just focusing on it in a big way in recent years. And so we actually have oftentimes a much richer set of customer data that they can tap into. So we partner with our brands and in a lot of ways where they, yes, we are playing together nicely with a lot of negotiations sometimes, but because we have the data available to us, a lot of our partners are actually working with us to tap into that in different ways across the media mix and across we have a co-op program and recently launching retail media, which we can talk about too.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's great. And then, we've heard it multiple times today, talked about a little bit, but want your perspective on kind of the art and science of brand performance. So, right, as branding and performance are coming together, there's certainly a high level awareness in branding campaigns that you need to be doing, along with the more conversion tactics or performance tactics. How do you separate, or are you welcoming them blending? How do you build campaigns that achieve both objectives?
Yeah, I love talking about this, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear G and Mike talk about it right before this as well. At Saks, it's really been a journey, but I'm really happy to say that today we are talking about kind of, the brand and the performance side of it together. We're strategizing for it together, which has been really, really beneficial, I think, for performance overall. The way that I think about it or frame it in my mind is it's not just about, how to reach your target audience, it's what are you going to say to them when you get there, what are you going to show them, and how are you going to move them and resonate with them. So with that, a lot of our journey here is rooted in measurement, and that was also a topic that I know was discussed before. So has been a huge unlock for us in terms of allowing us to measure marketing performance across the entire funnel. So whether we're talking higher funnel, more branding type tactics, or lower funnel, more traditionally direct response performance tactics. So it helps us understand the entire funnel and the performance across that, so that we are able to then invest more evenly across the customer journey instead of maybe overemphasizing tactics that are favored by last click attribution. So that's been a huge unlock for us. But we also do leverage other measurement methodologies that supplement that. So, for example, search lift studies, understanding how some mid or upper funnel tactics like display or video are impacting our search volume. And so, starting to be able to stitch the customer journey across different touch points and different channels in order to understand overall performance. Related to that, brand lift studies, so really understanding, how is targeting and the brand, the creative asset, how are they working together to move the needle when it comes to brand perception? And then creative testing we're always doing just to understand, it's so important for a brand like ours. We're a very, very visual brand, and so constantly testing to see, you know, of all the creative versions, of all the assets that we're putting out into the world, what's resonating with our customer, what's not resonating, and how can we continue to push the boundary there. So all of that comes together, and it really, you know, and I'm really focusing on measurement because I think that's the really, you know, it has to start there in order to get brand and performance to work together. And so we've definitely focused a lot of effort there. And to your point, it very much is an art and a science, and anyone who wants it to be one or the other is just not going to have a good time.
Fair point. And digging in a little different angle to that. Similarly, younger generations are they're engaging with social, they're engaging with media in a myriad of different ways, but they're always shopping. We don't think of it as they're always shopping, but as they're scrolling their feeds, as they're doing these things, they're always in an opportune moment. Have there been campaigns that have surprised you that, you know, you kind of went with a branding campaign, but wow, we saw a high level of conversion on that? And have there been some aha moments that have come up from the fact that the younger generations are just, you know, they might not be in a necessarily shopping, they weren't going knowing that they wanted to get this burgundy V-neck sweater, but, you know, pretending I'm young. But you know, they see something and engage and buy. Are you seeing some activities like that with the younger generation starting to happen?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily just the younger generation, but in general, I think we've been sometimes, you know, surprised by when we have creative that is breaking through in some way, maybe something slightly unexpected. I don't think it has to be jarring or shocking, but one of the campaigns that we worked on, we had an outfit that was very, you know, it was red, it was very, you know, eye-popping, and the model wearing it had a lion tattoo on her ankle. So we kind of put that out there as like, you know, come to Saks, browse, have fun, shop by sign. Shop by your astrological sign, and the implication is like, you know, this model, this person, you know, she's a Leo, and you know, a little of a departure for a Saks brand like us, a little younger, and that really resonated. I think we were surprised by, you know, kind of the level of engagement and click through and people who were interested in something like that, because we kind of put that kind of message and creative out there, a little bit of a test. Like I said, it's a departure from kind of maybe our core voice. It's not a 180 by any means, and that's the thread that we have to kind of, or the fine line that we kind of have to walk, but just trying something a little bit more engaging, really evolving our brand for today and for the future. We've had moments where that was interesting to see how people are accepting and embracing that.
How has Saks, you know, looking at Saks being an established luxury older brand, part of the oldest in North America, how has receptivity been to disrupting that environment a little bit, doing advertising a little bit different, doing social, new types of campaigns, new engagements, things like that for a really established brand? That can be challenging. Have you been given carte blanche to do as you please, if you will?
Not carte blanche yet, but we definitely, you know, to the credit of our leadership team, we really believe in data as an organization. Even though we work in a very emotional industry, fashion is very emotional, but we do really, everything that we do is rooted in data. So it's been a lot of testing and learning, not a new concept by any means, but for us, we've been able to take that model, and as long as we're consistently testing, learning, and scaling across different new ways of doing things, and that's why also when we were talking about that convergence of brand and performance, all of it's rooted in measurement, because for us, if we can show that it's working, if we can show that it's resonating with the right type of audience, then, you know, we know the direction that we can continue to move. We don't move very quickly. I think for a brand like ours, you have to be very careful about any kind of departure from maybe what is more of your traditional and your core, but we know that we have to continue to evolve, and so it really comes back to testing and learning different things, and then using that as a direction going forward.
This doesn't have to be something that you're necessarily testing and learning on yet, but what tactics have you excited heading into 24 that maybe are new or that you guys are dipping a toe in? What has you excited going into 24? Something that's going to be departure from the norm?
Yeah, so I think building on a couple things that we've been working on for the past few years, creator marketing is something that I'm very excited about. Definitely not, outside of the norm, especially for the fashion industry. But I would say that our focus over the last few years at Saks and building out our creator marketing strategy has been pretty lower funnel focused. So, we work with creators, they will feature and talk about this product that we sell, and we try to drive people exactly to that product or a similar product to buy it. We've kind of figured the formula out on that, and it's working quite well for us. But creator marketing can do so much more for us, and so for next year, kind of this next phase is bringing creator marketing higher in the funnel. So how can we leverage creators and their storytelling capability, which sometimes surpasses our own, in order to move the needle when it comes to brand perception and brand sentiment. So I'm very excited about that. I mean, we've seen it work for other brands out there, and I think as a brand who is very much actively trying to evolve our perception, it's a great tactic for us to kind of lean into. And then the other one I'll mention is probably the video space has me the most excited. It's again a channel that we've at Saks over the past few years really launched in a bigger way than even than before that. But for me, I mean, video in and of itself, that advertising real estate is just so unique and so rich for being able to tell stories about your brand and really getting that message out there. But that combined with, whether it's online video or CTV, all of the technological capabilities that have been rolling out in that space, I think just really makes that entire channel very very exciting for me going into next year. And we have a lot that we want to test and learn there.
We heard Jess this morning from Clinique with Estee talk about that a lot of the sales are still happening in store, right? And in CPG, and it's like 88% of sales are still happening in store. How do you guys balance that? Because obviously the stores are your landmark, right? So are you working on driving consumers who are potentially engaging first in digital? Are you trying to close them? Does it depend on the campaign? How do you think about building campaigns and where you ultimately want that consumer to convert?
Yeah, so we definitely have the data, right? We know our customers who are in-store only traditionally. We know their customers who only shop Saks.com and then the omni-channel. So we do leverage that data to try and cross-pollinate across channels. But honestly, at Saks, our philosophy has very much been, we are one brand to the customer, and they can shop us however we want. So we don't do a ton of trying to nudge customers one way or the other. I think at the end of the day, our North Star right now is evolving our brand to become a place of inspiration and discovery, and then however customers want to engage with us, in that realm, we leave it up to them. We just have to make sure that we're in front of them with the right messaging at the right time, but we kind of welcome them to shop us and return to us and, engage with us however they want.
This might be a leading question just because we already talked about the art and the science, and but it's noisy out there, both for consumers but also for brands to determine how they're going to, what channels, what tactics, what there's a lot of engagement for consumers, but there's just a lot of options for you as a marketer. How do you kind of vet what's the right play in the right moment? Obviously video is exciting and social is hot and utilizing creator content and things like that, but you start to look at that, you can go video in a myriad of different ways, and you can go, how do you vet what your mix is going to look like, and does it just come back to science, or is there we've got to try some new things, we've got to work in some innovation?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in here knows our industry is evolving so quickly, so I mean, just to even keep up with all the innovation that's coming through is probably more than a full-time job. So we always have our ear to the ground. We're always talking to our media partners to understand and ad tech partners to understand what new things are rolling out, what should we be considering. But not everything is going to make sense for Saks, just like not everything's going to make sense for any one advertiser. So I think for us, discipline really comes into play by making sure that all parties, internal, external, all the people that we're partnering with are crystal clear on what the business's goals and priorities are, so that we're not always, I think we've all experienced times when we're pulled towards something just because it's shiny and new, and I think making sure that everyone is very focused on, what is it that the business is prioritizing this year overall, and does this innovation kind of play into that, or is this, this would be a nice to have, let's get to it when we have more bandwidth, more resources, whatnot. So I think just, making sure that everyone is very focused has been a really key part of it for us. And then, making sure people understand, like, what's the KPI, what's the definition of success, and if everyone's on the same page, I think that's really half the battle.
Thank you for that. One more, and then we'll open it up here for a couple minutes to the floor. But just a curiosity question more than anything, with creators, and particularly when it gets into UGC and what the consumers are saying, how do you guys engage with those? And I guess two separate questions. On the creator side, how much do you guide where you want them to go and what you want them to do to protect your brand? But then on the UGC side, are you guys okay with that? And as a luxury established entity, how nerve-wracking is that too?
It's very nerve-wracking, and we are very protective of our brand. Probably no surprise. And to your first question on, how much do we guide creators? This has been an evolution. I think the first year we started investing in a big way in creators was about 3.5 years ago. And I remember we went out with the campaign brief, like literally say this, feature this, and then, our agencies and the creators came back and was like, this is not how we work, and this isn't gonna perform well. And so we actually, again, through testing, because we didn't buy it, we're like, we have to have control. This is too much to like let go and let God. So we had to test into it to believe it. And so we actually, started loosening up our guidelines, loosening up our briefs, and we actually saw much stronger performance because the creators know what they're doing and they know their audience, they know what resonates, they know, what they like, what's good on them, everything. So we are now at a point where we definitely still have guidelines for brand safety reasons, but also, there are partners, there are business partners as well. So we are also always giving them updates like, hey, we have a lot of inventory that just came in this brand if you want to push it, but we don't require them. It's more just information sharing, and then we let them do their thing. And that's, we've honestly seen much better performance that way. So that's a big piece of it. And then, I think brand safety for every brand, but certainly for us, because we're not only contending with our own brand, but our brand really impacts the vendors who sell with us as well. And so because that's a constant negotiation, we have to keep things, looking and feeling a certain way in order to, whether it's maintain or gain, new brand partners into the fold. So that's an incredibly important part of it for us. So it's a constant, challenge, but I think it's one that we've started to be able to feel our way around and understanding, which partners we can work with, and give them a lot more freedom because they understand our brand just as much as we do. And those partners are really the most valuable for us. So we're really looking forward to building more of those going forward.
Interesting time in media, that's for sure. Well, we've got a couple minutes left if we want to open it up. Questions for Cathy?
What's up?
You're good? You're good.
Yes. All right. One, great conversation. Thank you. Two, are there any crossover genres, if you will, not fashion specifically, but maybe other genres like music or food or sports that lend themselves to luxury, lend themselves to fashion that you've either tested and were surprised at great results, or that you want to test moving into 2024?
Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity there. We have so far really only tested into for example, working with creators that are specialized in something that's not fashion, so very fashion adjacent things like interior design and things like that, food. But I think there's definitely more that we want to do there. I mean, even when we think about overall Saks marketing partnerships, for example, we partner with Amex, we partner with United Airlines, and really, with their more luxury tiers of their businesses to kind of cross-pollinate, the whether it's audiences or whatnot. So I think luxury lends itself to so many different industries. So yeah, I think that's definitely an area that we want to play in more as well. And it's only just the beginning from what we've done so far.
Thank you so much for sharing all the insights, and I'm sure you guys crushed it last week and through this week, but best of luck to you guys throughout the holidays.
Thank you so much.